Hey, I'm Hannah Weiss, the Director of Education at the Science Museum of Western Virginia, and this is your Moment of STEM. And this week, in honor of Halloween and, the beginning of kind of spooky season since we're just in October, I thought it might be fun to talk about some of the science behind some of the scarier phenomena in our world. So this week, we're going to talk about Bloody Mary. Now, Bloody Mary is a game, I'm going to call it a game, that's kind of pervasive in our media, right? You often think about it as like a slumber party game, a bunch of kids hanging out, it gets late, they go into the bathroom and then they play this game. But it's actually all over the place. It's parodied, alluded to, or even invoked in everything from South Park to Supernatural. But just in case you've somehow missed this game, the way it works is that you stare in a mirror in a dimly lit room, so usually your bathroom, and you repeat the name Bloody Mary anywhere from 3 to 5 times, depending kind of on where you learned the game and who taught it to you. And then something happens. Of course, the results vary about as much as the number of times you say the name. Sometimes what happens is something truly horrific. And other times you might see the name or face of a future spouse. But the cool thing here is that we really do see something when we stare in the mirror for a long period of time, right? Just recently, there was a study done in which researchers asked participants to stare into the mirror and report what they'd seen. And on the whole, these people who stared into the mirror and reported back said that they saw kind of grotesque or scary figures in the mirror, either things happening to their own faces or things in the mirror, even when they weren't familiar with Bloody Mary. So this kind of suggests that something is happening. And the cool thing is, we may know why. You see, there's this really, really interesting thing that our brains do called peripheral fading, or the Troxler effect, which is what happens when you're super focused on something and everything in the periphery, everything on the sides, kind of fades out. It's an effect that's used an awful lot in optical illusions. The ones that have a crosshatch in the center that you're supposed to stare at, and then something around the sides might vanish or start flashing in and out. And that's because our brains, when we're staring at a fixed point, kind of let the stuff on the sides go away. They get kind of bored. Of course, sometimes we don't just let it vanish. Sometimes our brains will try and fill in those gaps with what we're pretty sure should be there. So some people staring into a mirror at a fixed point have reported facial features distorting or even vanishing. Or sometimes even seeing movie monsters or things that the media says should be in the mirror when we do that appear, because that's what our brains think should be there. Of course, this is not the only brain trick that's happening when we stare into the mirror. See, some participants in this study and some people report that they see shadow figures. And that's coming from another really weird thing that our brains do. Our brains are super good at seeing faces. We're kind of trained to see them in everything, and we'll point them out in clouds and cars and toast even. Our neurons are like fixed to see faces. It's something called pareidolia. So when we see something that might vaguely potentially be a face over the corner of our eyes or maybe even over our shoulders when we're staring into the mirror, our neurons scream that there's a face there. And our brains put in what we think should be there. And the result, at least at slumber parties in my experience, are that you go running out of the bathroom down to the kitchen and turn the lights on and everyone's laughing hysterically 10 minutes later. But I still think it's really, really neat that our brains can play these fantastic tricks on us. And if you'd like to know any more about the Troxler effect or pareidolia, or how they relate to Bloody Mary, you can check out the links below. Otherwise, I'm Hannah Weiss from the Science Museum of Western Virginia, and I still don't think I'm going to be playing this game anytime soon.